Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alicia Wilson, and I want to welcome you to this week's edition of Entrepreneurship Matters, featuring two amazing entrepreneurs in the cooking space here today. So, what we all know is that great entrepreneurs, great businesses are not built in a day. It takes a lot of hard work, tremendous effort, multiple failures to make it happen. And the two entrepreneurs that we're featuring today are no different. I want to invite Dorien Murphy and Candi Dailey to the screen. And I'm going to give them do justice to their bios, and then we're going to launch right into the conversation. Glad to have you, Dorien. Glad to have you, Candi. Very excited for this conversation.
Thank you for
Thank you
having me.
for having me.
Oh, well, welcome. So let me start with Dorien. Dorien is a native Baltimorean with 2 decades of culinary hospitality and entrepreneurship experience. He currently serves the Mid-Atlantic region by providing upscale in-home dining, catering, meal preparation, and corporate hospitality experiences through his company, Chefin LLC. Through his work, he executes his passion of serving fresh, flavorful, and nutritious food, as he believes everyone should be able to, listen to this, share a great meal experience amongst family and friends. I love that. That's a great motto. Chef Dorien received his formal culinary training from the Baltimore International College and business credentialing at the Morgan State University. Welcome, Dorien. Really
Go
impressive,
Bears.
right? Yeah, go Bears. All right. I love it. I love it. And next is Candi Dailey with an extensive background in culinary arts and secondary focus in hospitality management. Candi is responsible for the development of hospitality solutions and concept brands at PHG through strategic partnerships, supplier diversity initiatives, and contract negotiation. She ensures that services provided through their unique food service programs are tailored to corporate, commercial, and government requirements. From dining services to hospitality administration, she is a Pennsylvania culinary alumna. What's the mascot? He gave Bears. Maybe there's no mascot, right,
Yes.
Candi? No mascot. Okay, okay. She is well versed in front of house and back of house operations with over 18 years of experience in a career dedicated to the hospitality industry. She is now president. She's a president and also oversees the development of PHG's restaurant portfolio, which include Ruby Southern Cuisine, Brown Butter Cafe, beautiful name, and Caravana. Connie is married to Jason and enjoys spending time with their 5 daughters, reading, traveling, and hosting family events. She is the owner of Ruby Southern Comfort Kitchen and Potomac Hospitality Group. Welcome, Candi, again.
Hello.
All right. So, for both of you, you are at the top of your game in the industry. You are both and had an amazing journey. But what brought you to entrepreneurship, and specifically in the field of catering? So, Dorien, I'll start with you, and then Candi.
Okay.
Sure. So I had been bitten by the entrepreneurial bug quite a while ago. While I was in undergrad, I would try to find a way to make a dollar however I could. I had become really well versed at developing resumes, doing mock interviews, and that type of thing. So I would I would have my cohort come to me if they needed something like that done, and I would charge them a nominal fee to do their resumes and cover letters and whatnot. And then not too long after that, I had started a culinary apparel company when I lived in Atlanta, and that did pretty well. So before I started chefing, I had already been bitten by the bug, but
Mhm.
but specifically catering, with my culinary background and with my hospitality background from Morgan, and after spending my entire career in the industry, it was a good way for all of those worlds to kind of culminate. And it was an easy slam dunk for me to consider, doing personal chef work, personal catering in the homes, and homes of folks who didn't think that having a personal chef could be affordable. And then from there, it kind of blossomed into chefing.
I mean, it's really great to hear your story because, you know, a lot of people are selling stuff. They're in school right now, in college. You're selling resume preparation and really utilizing all of those skills to now having your company in a different space of something you love. So beautifully, I mean, a beautiful journey that you described. How about you, Candi? How did you get into becoming an entrepreneur? Where were you bitten?
So I think I was probably bit very early by my family. So like a lot of people, I started in the kitchen with my parents. My dad cooked almost daily, and he would feed our neighborhood and our friends and our family. And when he passed away, my mom went back to school and she was working, and so I kind of just jumped into the kitchen where my dad left off. And I think my mother probably saw my gift a little bit before I did, and so she sent me to charm school, where I eventually learned about table settings and placements and things of that nature. And which eventually, you know, she was like, well, why don't you do culinary school? And then that happened. And I think I just was cooking at home, and she saw that there was a gift there, and she poured into that. And I eventually landed, you know, in the kitchen.
That's beautiful. I mean, to talk about your mom and your dad's influence on
Absolutely.
and helping you pull out that gift. So what age were you at when you started cooking?
Probably around 13, 14. So my dad passed when I was 13. So I would say maybe
Oh,
about 14,
wow.
I was in the kitchen. And then I've just always been in the kitchen all this time. And as I got older and more mature and really just in the industry, I knew that I wanted to be on the administration end of it, because a lot of people sometimes are like, oh, I'm a chef and I want to run a business. And they don't understand that the business part of it is one thing, and then the cooking is a completely separate thing. And so there has to be a balance. And for a long time, I was in the kitchen, but as we grew, I started following more of the administration role in the company, and I brought in other cooks. And so we've been able to develop and kind of bring in other people to our team. And I've been able to focus on the structure of the business and developing concepts for the brand.
I love that. And we're going to come back to that. And I want you to hold that because
Okay.
it's an important point that you just talked about and a great gem of you were, you know, there is a scaling part of your
Yeah.
business
Mhm.
where you could have continued to be in the kitchen, but you could scale the business by taking yourself out of the kitchen.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really great lesson for folks who listening. I want to get to the point, and I'm going to start with Dorien and then come back to you, Candi, which is
Okay.
you both talked about the business. So growing, you know, maturing like a gift that you had into a business. So can you tell folks, how did you go from Dorien, you recognize that food is a convener. It's something that people love. You, Candi, as well. How did you go from like a love of doing that to creating a business now that is thriving, employing others? How have you been able to do that? So Dorien, how did you do that? Go from step to step.
Sure. Chefing was started in 2016.
Mhm.
And I knew that I knew that I knew the hospitality industry. I knew that I knew how to cook. What I didn't know is the world of personal chefs, what credentialing would be needed, what insurance would be needed.
Mhm.
I did know the basic steps of starting a business, however. And so for the first year of chefing being developed, it was all market research. So
Mhm.
in the field, doing these events, trying to figure out what ways to streamline the actual operational piece of it, how to
Mhm.
set prices, what does the market even want, what kind of food items do they want, what are the
Mhm.
that are being experienced in the market. And I knew that I needed 4 seasons to do that because the seasonality of menus changes, ingredients change. And so those are the steps that I first started to, develop the business, was in that first year, just understanding what was needed. During that year, I obtained some hospitality credentialing
Mhm.
and insurance, and started the actual business piece. And it wasn't even really profitable in that first year, to be honest. um, but from there, in that second year, then it's like, okay, well, we had these menus from last year, these things worked, these things didn't work, this pricing was great, this pricing wasn't great, this is how we should market. And it was really just a learning curve and just understanding the market
Yeah.
for
And I picked up from what you said about 5 steps that you went through. One, really understanding what you were getting yourself into. So what does it mean to be a personal chef? What is the credentialing? What's the insurance? And then the market research, which allowed for you to go to the third step of thinking about the operations, how you were going to really build this out, build the infrastructure, go through the 4 seasons. A really important point, because you're right. I don't want to eat soup in July. So like, how do you think about that? And then credentialing, making sure that in business infrastructure. So great gems for folks watching to understand. How about you, Candi? How did you go from idea, the love that you had passed down to starting your business?
So my journey may have had a few more bumps in them than Barry and Dorian's. So I have worked at hotels and restaurants for a really long time. And then I opened actually 2 restaurants that both failed. And so after the failure so I did one and then I did another. And again, I worked at other places. And so the last place that I worked, I really just focused on that company and wanting to do my best and be my best there. And so I kind of had this model in my head that I wanted for that company at the time, the same thing that I would want for myself. So I gave it my all. And so there were just a lot of lessons there. So by the time I decided to branch out and to do something on my own, my husband and I, our most recent business is Potomac Hospitality. We started that in 2016. And my husband one day just said, let's go for it. Like, let's make it happen. And so we started, like most companies, small and in our home. And the first year was really, really rough. But by this time I had experiences and failure, but I also had great learning lessons from the different places that I worked. And so I kind of put all of those things together so that when I did branch off on my own, I was really ready this time. And so, thankfully we've seen the fruits of the work that we put in and even those lessons. And so we started in 2016 in our home, and then we eventually got a building. And one of the things that we ran into with coming into a building was that we were doing a lot of catering for the federal government or for contracts, but we would run into hurdles because the government pays on a slower system than we would like, right? Most of the time when catering, you get paid up front. When you're working for larger companies or the government, you may not get paid for 30, 60, 90 days. And so that's really where we kind of tapped into doing our concept. So we created a concept I have written called Rubies. We condensed it a little bit, and that became the cash flow for our catering company. And that's eventually how, if someone were to ask me today, what do? We would say catering, concepts, and contracts. And that's how our 3 primary focuses started.
So many gems you just, I don't know if you realize, you gave like a whole, you could have given a course just now in how to build a business. A couple of great things you said. One, you started out in the hotel and restaurant.
Yeah.
And then you started your own restaurants. And I thank you for your transparency that 2 of them failed.
Yep.
But as you said, and you didn't rest in the failure, use them as learning lessons, and went into another business where really you got like a PhD in business through someone else's business, and really took yourself through that business and treated it like it was your own, which then allowed for you in 2016 to advance. And I love how you talked about cash flow, and I want to go there in this conversation right now. And I'll start with you, Candi, and then go to Dorien. This questions come up in the chat. Oh, let me just tell folks, I see you already participating in the chat, so please continue. You may also, put your questions in Facebook, where many of you are watching. Put them in the chat. You can also text them to 22333. Type JHUWL in the message, and I'll get all of those questions. I'm already seeing them come through, and I'll weave them into the conversation. But let's start there with the capital piece. You just talked about cash flow, and there are other businesses on here who contract with you. So talk to us a little bit about how have you been able to finance your business, and even give us some of us tips on if this would have existed, it would have made us grow faster, or it would have helped in that way. So Candi, I'll start with you and then Dorien.
Okay. So essentially when we started in our house, cash flow, we were our bank, meaning that we would try to make certain that we dealt with clients who were paying us up front. We made certain that our pricing was tight, that all of our numbers were correct. And if we're quoting you a $10,000 event, your 50% deposit is due your 50% deposit is due to confirm, and the balance is due 14 days before the event. There was no option to that. When we started picking up larger clients, so events or catering that would be $50,000 to $100,000 range, the government is not paying you that. And so we would reach out to our family. Well, if we couldn't do it ourselves, we've been blessed and fortunate enough that our family has been very supportive of us. And so we were able to just kind of make it happen each time. I want to say, thank God that we were able to make it through.
No, thank God.
And then, so when it got to the point where we needed capital, more working capital, and we hadn't started our concepts yet, one of the things that was most important for us with building credit was having a brick and mortar. So banks or even private funding institutions are willing to work if you have a brick and mortar and you've built your business credit. So when we started, we really worked on making certain that our credit was where it needed to be, making certain that we had the lines up, the trade lines that we needed for the business, so that when we needed, smaller financing, we may not have needed $200,000-300,000, but smaller numbers, we were able to get that. There's a lot of different lenders out there that provide small businesses money, either based on invoicing or invoices, or your projections of what you have coming up. So that was probably the first way that we did it before we went to banks.
Beautifully said, because a lot of people don't. That last point you made about getting loans based on your invoicing, it's very common in like the construction field, but many people don't think about that in services, right? So you have a bunch of invoices, that's your receivables. I'll give you a loan based on your receivables, no matter what they are. But great tips you just gave. How about you, Dorien? How did you finance chefing?
Yeah, well, first of all, Candi, that is it. That's 100% exactly it. Right now, we're still in the smaller building phases. So a lot of our financing is coming through smaller banking relationships we have, and savings and capital that we're generating within chefing. And so that's where we're getting a lot of our financing. Currently, we are looking to move out of a commissary kitchen that we're in, and into our own space that is ours, that we can host events and demonstrations and such like. And so what is being required of that is, my own personal credit guarantee. And hopefully my credit is in a decent space so that, we're able to go out and get those things. But, if I could give a tip, it's just making sure, that before you go into your entrepreneurial endeavors, just making sure that your credit is on point, and that your pricing is on point, because you got to have that money. And sometimes, others don't see the vision of your business the way you see it.
Right.
You're going to have to be able to put your money up first before someone else is willing to put theirs up.
And I completely agree. And I think I forgot to also mention the friends and family round that you both have sort of intimated of financing the business and thinking about that. And so let me shift to this question, which has come through a couple of different times in questions that I received, which is, what were your first few years of business look like, right? So both of you right now, you hit your stride, you talked about, but what were those first couple of years like? And in many respects, what kept you going even through those challenges? So Candi, what was the first couple of years like?
So the first couple of years were like most small businesses. It's rough because you're starting out with just, a couple of people, and then your business is growing and you're trying to understand the best way to scale it. How do we do this? Do we have the capacity? Even now, I remember, a few years ago, we would have to turn down work because we didn't have the capacity for requests that we would get. So, a different agency would ask us, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you manage this? But we didn't have enough staff to cover it, or we didn't have, the different things that you need in your business to scale. And so that became kind of the footprint that we needed to moving forward to build. So we would take the things that we had to say no to, and that's how we learned what we needed to set goals for. How do we get to the point where we can say yes to this customer? How do we get to the point where we can do this? So I would say we definitely went through hurdles there, and with staffing, and not so much staffing, but just, making certain that we had the right staff, right? Because we want to treat our guests a certain type of way. And so you have to make certain that you're hiring people that understand your vision and that also are going to treat your guests the same way you would, right? They essentially, they need to emulate you when it comes to your guests. And so that's a process, and really learning to deal with people. And when I'm saying people, I mean learning to deal with your staff and your team, and making certain that you have the right core people on your system. So there were definitely bumps and hurdles, but on the flip side of that, because we went in, because of my previous lessons, both in failures and in work, again, like I said, this time we came in really strong. So the benefit of those lessons, there was not a year where we did less than $1 million since we've started. And there's also been profit on those years. So we're very fortunate, but it did cost me essentially prior to me coming in and starting my own, right? So again, like I mentioned, there were lessons prior to that, but yeah.
Excellent. It's so inspiring because you talked about, you know, I mean, it's beautiful story. How about you, Dorien?
So, so the first few years of chefing, I also worked a full-time W-2 job. That I needed to do that in order to cover costs and to, you know, so, you know, our core business model is, you know, to take chefs and dispatch them out to places to do events in home. And so one of exactly what Candi said, I mean, you have to make sure that your team is like they understand what it is. And thankfully, you know, I had worked with a number of different chefs when I was at Four Seasons and when I was at Sagamore Pendry. And so those places have...
You look familiar. I remember you from the Pendry.
Those places have a certain pedigree that they're looking for. And so with that, I was able to have a team that I knew I could send out and do different things, even when I wasn't able to be there. And, you know, just set up the infrastructure for them to make sure that it all worked out right. But in the first couple years, I mean, I'd say that my team I was doing about 20% of events, and the 4 chefs on the team, they were doing about 20% of events as well. And so it was one of those things where, you know, I'm not able to be there all the time. You got to make sure that the team is on point and that they understand the vision, and thankfully they did.
Yeah, no, both of you talked about, and we've talked to, right now we talked to over 120 entrepreneurs on this series.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's been such a blessing to hear the inspiring stories of entrepreneurship. And everyone talks about that team and how critically important it is. And whether you are Amazon or you are, you know, working in your home, the team is really, really important. So can you give some tips to other entrepreneurs watching about how they can think about building their team? How do you know, Candi, you all are known for Class A hospitality. Class A, I mean, we heard of you because of just the stellar work. Dorien, just stellar work, stellar team, represents the brand in a great way. But what do you do to build that team? And for other entrepreneurs who are wondering, like, how can I build a team? Are there tips to doing that? So Candi, what would you say? It was your tip, and then Dorien as well.
So there's a couple of different tips, and I would say I can give you a couple that we use. So one of the things that I just talked about with what we call our core team is that it was important for everyone that we hired for this core team to be willing to read certain books. One of them was called Setting.
Hold on. You're going to slow down because you're giving books.
I actually keep them right at my desk.
We're putting them in the chat. We're putting them in the chat so people can take them down. We're going to take them down.
One is called Setting the Table by Danny Meyer. The other one is it's a Chick-fil-A book, and it's called It's My Pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
I'm gonna tell you that the author is Deanne Turner. And then there's a book called The Secret that we ask everyone to read. And then I think it's called The Gold Standard, and it's a book about the Ritz-Carlton. 2 of those books right now are mandatory for our team. because they share the importance of customer service, right? And so my belief, and it may not be for everybody, but so my belief is that if our team is happy, then ultimately our guests will be happy. We know we're going to put out good food. That's not the question, right? But you can go anywhere in the world to eat. So what makes a person choose us to cater to them or to come to one of our restaurants? So it has to be more than the food, because they can go and get good food from anywhere. So it has to be the service, the way that we treat people, their experience when they're with us, and a lot of different factors. But ultimately, the people that we hire have to believe in those things. And so it's really just going through the process, in interviews and talking to people. And the interview process, not just a one-time thing, is talking to me, talking to my husband, talking to our core team. Are they a good fit with us? Do they mesh well? Are they a good person to represent us when we're not around? So there's just a lot of different things that we look for, ideally in candidates. And to be honest, it's easier said than done. It is not an easy task. We can go a really long time without someone, without hiring somebody or replacing someone, just because we want it to be the right person.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I would like to think specifically for our core people that we're very selective in that process. And even in our restaurant operations, we're still selective in a sense, maybe not as tedious as we are with our administration team, because with restaurants, it's the tempo is a lot faster. But we're still trying to be selective about who we bring in, and making certain that they're a good fit. And it doesn't always mean that we pick the right people. You don't know. Sometimes their interview process may be one thing, and then when they get in, it's a completely different thing. And you're like, wait a minute, this is not who I met. And so then you have to make a decision. You have to say, hey, I'm sorry, we thought it would be like this, but unfortunately at this time it's not a good fit. Maybe later on, but right now, it doesn't work for what we're doing. And that happens too.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love the book, Setting the Table.
Yep,
It's
Setting the Table by Danny Myers. Yeah,
it's my pleasure. The Secret and the Gold Standard.
Yep.
All right, now I might have the team. Now that they're probably watching, like, y'all gonna read these books. No, I'm great. I have an amazing team. So, but this is great. I love it. How about you, Dorien? How do you build your team?
Absolutely. First of all, Setting the Table, that is an A1 staple book. If you are in the industry, you need to read that book.
It's an industry Bible.
Oh, it's industry Bible. Okay. See, I did not know. I'm on Amazon. I'm gonna buy that book today.
I would, how we develop the team is, first we needed to think about like what our actual needs are. Because our model requires a lot of independent thinking folks who are in the field. They're traveling on their own, and they're traveling the mid-Atlantic. One day they might be in Philadelphia, the next day they might be in Leesburg, Virginia, and that's a 3-hour spread between the two. So you got to have people who are independent thinkers, who are able to think on their feet, and who are very personable. Because on one end, yes, as a personal chef, you have to know how to cook, and you have to know how to cook safely. But the other end is you need to be a showman. You are on stage from the entire time, from when your car pulls up and you have those paper bags of groceries in your hand and that knife kit on your back. You're on stage when you pull up to when you load back in and you're driving home. And so the things that, we knew we needed, one, from an operational end, well, what we needed to do was to think about from the operational end what we needed. How do I free myself up, and how do I free our chefs up from extended communications with the client? And so we knew we need to hire a few experience managers to manage the experience and the contact between, the client and our company. Because the last thing that we need is, as we're procuring ingredients and this and that, having to take a call and then you end up missing an ingredient, or you missing something. Because what you bring is what you have. There is no going into dry storage to get the thing, because there is no dry storage that belongs to you. So the first thing we did is we understood what our needs were. Then we started mapping out what key qualities each one of those positions needed. as we started to interview for the roles. And for the experience manager in specific, which is a non-culinary role, we knew that this person needed to have a sales background. We knew that they needed to be very personable. We knew that they needed to have a certain look and a certain, even in certain sound, you know. And for the culinary roles, the chefs, they needed to be staged, and because we needed to know that they actually knew how to cook and they knew the foundations of French cuisine, which our menus are based on. And then, you know, from there, you know, we need to understand whether or not they had the personality and they were able to essentially be a Food Network chef that's coming into your house. But those are a few of the things that we looked for as we started hiring the team. And it didn't always work out for everyone. You know, I learned that in the personal chef world, it's very competitive. And you know, you might give people all of the cheat codes to how to do this personal chef thing the right way. And then they feel that, well, they know how to do it better than how we do it. And then they branch off and they have their own things. And, you know, but that's another thing that we really speak fervently about is if you're with us, then you're with us.
Yep.
You know, and I try to find folks who are completing culinary school and that kind of thing, because then they don't have as much experience going out and doing their own business endeavors. Because if you find a seasoned cook or even seasoned chef in the industry, they already have their network of people who they picked up, people who they do events for and whatnot. And sometimes like we don't need those kind of people, unfortunately, because we can't have people defecting from what it is that we're trying to do. We have some pretty strong medium and long-term goals, and they require people to be locked into what we're doing. And so that's also another thing that, you know, we kind of talk about during the interview process.
Yeah, no, you want people part of the with you on the journey for the long haul. No, beautiful. I mean, both of you just great tips, figuring out your needs, the key qualities. You gave all the books. I know some folks on Facebook asked what all the book titles were. We put them in the chat and they're coming to you on Facebook. So don't worry, we have all that for you. And I want to shift you into, so leap off of what you just talked about, which is your clientele. And both of you have folks, repeat customers, right? So how did you go about building your clientele? How did you build up to where you are now, and sort of also think about like where would you like to go in the future with your clientele? So Candi, how did you build up, you and your husband, into your clientele and then move on?
Got it. So we actually have two very different clientele. So for our catering company, we are extremely selective with who we work with. Catering, offsite catering, meaning that we're going to their home or we're going to their offices or going into a venue to perform or to prepare food, is very detailed, it's extremely detailed, and there's a lot of logistics. So, you know, I would say that the benefit of what we do is that we are fortunate enough to be selective with who we say, yes, we'll provide service to. Sometimes we really just get a feel for, you know, a person over the phone or in your conversation, and you know if it's a good fit or not. I know in the beginning, we would really take on everything, right? Because you're trying to get work, you want to make certain that you're busy and that the money is coming in. And so we would use different platforms to you know, get leads and things like that. And really it was just knocking on doors and communicating and really just networking a lot. I would say that's definitely what we did for our catering company. As we grew, we started to notice that, you know, we needed to be more selective about, you know, who we served. And so there are events that we will definitely say no to. And sometimes it's not the budget, you know, sometimes it is the budget, you know, it's not a good fit for us. And sometimes, you know, it doesn't matter what their budget is. We may not have meshed well, and we don't want it to be, you know, a disaster on our end, and we'll say no. for our restaurants, we're open to the public. And so, we're serving whoever walks through the door with a smile and, hoping that they feel like family when they come in. It doesn't always work like that. There are guests who don't have great experiences, and we try to communicate with them about, what didn't you like, what happened, how did it lead up to this? And we try to reconcile anytime we have any issues there. If we can, there's times that we cannot. But for the most part, I would say, depending on the two clientele, one, it was really just, us networking and knocking on doors and doing what we needed to do to get clients in. And that's still a difficult, even now, it's still not the easiest process. But again, for the restaurants, they're open to the public. And so we kind of just see that traffic daily.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the tip of, you having two different clientele, it's interesting to think about how you're building on both sides of that. And then I'm going to come back to something you just talked about and just after Dorien. But Dorien, how have you built your clientele? Because we've heard about you through many different channels. I didn't even realize you were at the Pantry. I was like, he looks so familiar, but I can't figure it out. That's where it is. But how have you built your clientele?
So, we started off doing events for friends and family and kind of generating some really good word of mouth leads from that. But then we also have a couple lead generation platforms that we utilize to get those leads coming in. So that's another way. But it is a ton of marketing and, going out in the field and putting ourselves where the people who need our services are. So we, and that's a tip that I would give the other entrepreneurs. It's not going to come to you. And even if you do a Facebook, ad campaign or an Insta ad campaign, even if you pay for that, it's not going to come to you. You have to go to where the people are. And so we understood what our core market was based on the line of business we were looking to attract, whether it's meal preparation or culinary demonstration or dinner parties, and we put ourselves there. Sometimes that requires complimentary things that, we pay for off the hip, but, in paying for that, we're also in return receiving very good email lists and, and name lists and making those connections where people see us as a first choice when they're looking for the services we provide. So that's how we generate leads.
No, that's great. I mean, it tells you like it's not coming to you. So like Facebook and Instagram, they're not gonna. That's a part of a whole series of actions you take. But it is not you can't sit back and wait for them to come. That's not how it works. So I think they're not coming that way. They're not. I mean, I do see some of the stuff and I'm like, oh man, I would like to go there. But yeah, I love the hustle. And so I do think that you have to meet that with an additional work. So I think that was really helpful. So I want to go back to something Candi said, which was about every client isn't your client. Right. And so every job isn't your job. And so how do you as an entrepreneur develop that discipline, or how did you come to that realization? Because, most entrepreneurs are like, I'm going to take every customer, like everyone that has $1 is going to be, and my hairdresser says this all the time. She's probably watching. She says, all money is not good money. So she won't do certain people's hair because she's like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. We're not aligned. So how did you come to that realization?
I'm sorry, who's going first? You.
Oh, Candi.
Okay. So for me is making certain that we're working with a client who's educated on catering. And I'm very specifically talking about us doing offsite catering. We want to make certain that our clients understand what they're asking for, right? Because we can have someone call and they saw this on Instagram and this is what they want. But sometimes they may not understand the logistics of putting that together. So you want this phenomenal wedding and you want it to look like this, and you saw this picture on Instagram. You may not realize that those are fresh florals, and that in order to get those florals, they have to come from out of the country, and what the costs are that are going to be incurred when we bring those in. And then you want your guests to have this meal which includes crab and different seafoods, and you want filet, and you saw it on Instagram, but you may not understand that this filet, the price for this is going to be that. And because we're doing a grade A, it's going to be market price, and that price may change anytime between the time you book up until then. And so is, you know, you have customers who understand that, who are accustomed to having catering. And if they don't understand it, we have the opportunity to explain it to them, to break it down, to make them to help them understand what it is that they're asking for. And I think the best way that I always describe to our guests is essentially if you're asking us to cater, you're asking for us to bring a restaurant to you. That's including the food, the staff, the china, the stemware, everything that you see at a restaurant. We're bringing that experience to you and all 200 of your guests. There's a cost that's associated with that. And so then we break it down line item by line item so that they can see. And so there's sometimes flexibility there. We may have a customer who says, you know, I really liked the filet, but you know what, I think I'm more of a salmon budget, you know, and we can make that change for them. And then there's a guest that say, you know what, I don't care, my parents are paying for it, or we've got it, it's not a problem. And so we can move forward. It really just depends on the guest and what they're looking for. And if they don't understand that, if they do have, you know, if their eyes are bigger than their belly in a sense, and they want something that's not in their budget, we're going to be honest and transparent and say, you know, this is kind of where our price point started. We start at you know, just if I was throwing a number out there, I would say, oh, wedding may start somewhere between 150 per person and up. And so they might say, hey, that's not in my budget. And I might say, you know, here's another company that may be able to help you, or we may not be the best fit for you right now. I would look this direction. Yeah, I'm still going to try to help them, even if we can't.
Yeah, no, that's extremely helpful. And, you know, I've done a lot of catering and a lot of events, so I completely understand, but you're right. People go and they see beauty. They're like, this pie is salmon. I mean, if you want $50 a person, you know, you're probably talking about salmon. You're never talking about seafood. Yeah. So, cause they have to make money on the back end, right? Yeah. It's not like what you're doing. You as a business owner have to make money on the back end. Yeah, absolutely. So right. Dorien, how about you? How do you say, everybody come on, we do it all, or have you gotten to that point as well?
It started out that way, just because you're trying to generate the revenue and whatnot. But then over time with experience, you find that, you know, based on the price point and what people wanted and such like that, it just wasn't worth, you know, the effort and the time that you put in. That benefit wasn't there. And it's not necessarily a people thing. It's just you know, what this thing had become. So what we found is that our pricing and the way we set our pricing, it sets a very fundamental baseline for the kinds of clients we'll be dealing with. Mm-hmm. And so, while we do find ourselves in the position where we're like, well, you know, I might be talking with one of our experience managers and he'll bring a piece of business to me. And I'm like, well, I don't think that that's a piece of business for us because of all of the logistical pieces that go into it. You know, our price points put us in kitchens that have double ovens and large ovens and lots of natural lighting and those kind of things. And so, you know, that's what we do, is like we kind of generate it through the pricing. And through our initial phone conversation, we lay everything out in the open up front, so everyone knows what they're getting into, from, you know, what we provide, what our responsibilities are, and even on the client end, they have responsibilities as well, making sure the kitchen is a certain kind of way and the equipment is up to speed and operational, providing a place for their people to be. If you're doing a dinner for 35 people in your home, do you have 35 places for 35 people to be? You know, are they place settings for them?
Oh, good. That's a good point. Yeah.
Like Candi said, it's just really educating the client, because in the personal chef world, we came into this, you know, wanting people to know that they could have a personal chef. But a lot of people, like Candi said with catering, they don't know what that actually means. Mm-hmm. So it's that educational piece, making sure that they know what they're signing up for when they engage us for an event. And, you know, at the end of that introductory conversation, we have a pretty good idea of whether or not the relationship will move forward or whether it's not. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that it doesn't. It just means that there are a number of pieces that go into it, where it might be an education thing, it might be a financial thing, it might be a logistical thing. And the last thing we want are those inconsistencies to trickle down to what our customer service, what our reviews look like, and because that is how people come back and book us again. And so we are more willing to turn down a piece of business that might end up being a dumpster fire to preserve our reputation in the market.
No, I think that's such a thoughtful and wise course of action. And I know there are many entrepreneurs watching that may be in that predicament, like not realizing that there are risks associated when you take on a job that really in your gut, that's not, we shouldn't even, that's not a good fit. We shouldn't do that. Let me ask you both this question, because I have confirmed we have Oprah watching and a couple other entrepreneur investors and the like. And so how did you think about what investors could do to support your businesses? What could people at different levels, so at the Oprah level, at the investment level of banks, venture capital, and then at the consumer level, how can we support your businesses so that you exist, so that you not only exist but thrive and grow in our community? So what's the tips you would give to all of us who are watching? Candi, what's your tips? And then Dorien as well.
The best investment to me is word of mouth, is spreading the word about the business. That's the best thing that you could do for us. Is telling someone about us, introducing someone to us, letting someone know that we're here. When you know someone is having an event or they're hungry and looking to go to a restaurant, tell them about one of our concepts or tell them about our business so that we can serve them. To me, that's the best investment. As far as financial investments, to me, that's very difficult because as a business owner, you would have to be willing to do something privately, meaning outside of a traditional bank. And so for some businesses, that may be a scary thing. And, having what we would call a ghost partnership or some type of partnership like that, everyone doesn't necessarily look for that in their business. Some people may want to just keep it to themselves. But if you are open to it, I would definitely say making certain that you're working with someone who is, reliable and honest, and that, your attorneys are drawing up all the paperwork and reviewing everything with you and breaking it down item by item, putting it to you in layman's terms if you don't understand, and being honest if you don't understand what something says or you don't understand what you're reading. You have to be transparent, and I'm really good about saying, if I don't know something, I'm going to hire somebody that's better than me so that they can break it down to me, or they in the areas where I'm weak, that's their strength, then it works out for my business. So that would be my tip.
All right, great tips for Oprah and for all of us as consumers to spread the word. Don't worry, I got a question right after this, and Dorien, I have one for you too after this. But Dorien, give us your take on how can we all support your businesses at whatever level of investment or support we could provide.
Absolutely. I agree with Candi. One of the best things you can do is recommend the business. Of course, you have to experience the product first so that you can put your very own take on the experience. And so I would say, one, if you are interested in recommending the product, come out and experience it first, then, and then recommend it. And I think that and then on the financial piece, all businesses are in different spaces, and every business is even at a stage where they're able to talk to, an Oprah for that.
Y'all do. She's on.
But what I would say is, make sure you draw out your, short-term, midterm, and long-term goals so you understand financially, what you'll need to reach those goals. But then, what's the gap? For chefing, we have an application in development on the Apple and Android platforms that will connect folks looking to have culinary endeavors to our chefs and our team. And in the long run, we would like to, launch this thing nationwide. When it is complete at the beginning of it, it'll be launched within the Mid-Atlantic region, and then we'll be, expanding it out. But for us, we invested all in up front, and so we get that done. But we do know that we're going to be looking for investment in the future. And so you have to also understand, in order for that investment to happen, you have to give a little something too. What are you willing to give as well once those opportunities come for you? And then the last thing I'll also say is just making sure you have your pitch deck and all of your marketing things together, so that if those opportunities do come, you're able to kick those things off to interested parties immediately, and you don't keep people waiting, because not only is your company at stake, but your very specific personal brand and your name is at stake as well.
No, great tips that you've given, both of you, from the individual to the significant investor and people who are thinking about being invested in. Great tips for them. Now, I've received this question a couple of different times. I'm going to make sure I get to it before the end. So I'm going to keep going with questions, because there's some great questions coming in. But people want to know how they get in contact with both of you. So Candi, give us how we can sit down in your restaurant, and then how we could contact you for catering, and then Dorien as well. I'd love to get those in for everyone. So we put them in the chat so you can have them later. But Candi?
So we're in Bowie, Maryland. The current concept is Ruby Southern Kitchen. It's on Odenapolis Road. We will actually be moving in about 6 months. We just got our demo permit today. I'm really excited about that. We're moving in from our small space to an 8,000 square foot production kitchen and restaurant. So we're really excited about the experience that's going to happen in this new space. I'm so excited. We've been working on it for a really long time, and so I'm happy to see that come to light. And then
happy for you. That's so great.
And so we have a couple of concepts that are going to roll out right behind that. Brown Butter is our breakfast concept that's going to open next. It's our breakfast and brunch concept that's going to open next spring. And then behind that, we'll have Caravana, which is scheduled for 23. And so that's our restaurant. You can go to Ruby Southern Kitchen or Ruby SoCo Kitchen. It's on every social media, Ruby SoCo Kitchen. For catering, you can go to our website. It's Potomac, like the city, Potomac, H for hospitality and G for group.com. So PotomacHG.com, and you can talk to someone in our catering office who'll be happy to do something very custom and tailored for your upcoming event.
Excellent. Dorien, how do we get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So you can visit us on the web at www.ouichefin.com. That is French oui, OUICHE.
That's right. Thank you for helping with that, because we were about to put WE in.
For yes chef, in the industry, whenever culinary, the kitchen is in most kitchens is a very brigade system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like the army. And so whenever your chef calls something out to you, you acknowledge him.
Yes, chef.
Or we chef, depending on where you are. And that's where we derived our website.
I love it.
It's ouichefin.com. You can find us on Facebook at Chefin LLC. That's CHEFFIN. Drop the G, LLC. And on Instagram, right now it's me, Dorien Murphy, on Instagram. And our Chefin LLC Instagram is dropping pretty soon. We're just gathering all of our photo content for that so that we can drop that.
Excellent. We put all that on Facebook and in the chat. So folks need to come back and watch again and see, get those. Oh, everyone said this is awesome. Y'all getting a lot of love for your presentation. So spread the word. They told you all about how to help them, how to support them. So let me ask you this question, which is, you've given us some sneak peeks, but what is the next big thing for PHG, Ruby Southern Kitchen, and Dorien, what's the next big thing for chefing? Next thing on the horizon we should be looking out for. So Candi?
So as I mentioned, we're moving Ruby's to a new location, and that location will serve two purposes. It'll be our production kitchen, which is a really big thing for us. And then the other side of the building will be for Ruby's. And so we're really ecstatic about that. I would say the next big things are our next couple of concepts. Our pipeline, we keep something in it. There's always something moving along. And so I think our next big rollout after that will be brown butter. There are talks right now. We're in phase 1 of planning for an event space. So I would say that's something that will definitely take place in the next year or two, if not before then.
So excellent, so exciting. I mean, you're excited, but I'm so excited to see all this come to life. How about you, Dorien? What's next for Chef?
I want to first say I'm excited to come to Ruby Southern Kitchen.
I know, me too.
I pass Old Annapolis Road all the time when I'm doing Bowie and whatnot, and I am coming to see you. I want to let you know that.
Let me know when you're coming.
I will do.
Okay.
Will do. For chefing, so we have a mobile application in development. What we're looking to do is, take what our experienced managers do and automate that in application format. We want to take our client questions and experience from A to Z with as least fuss in the middle of it. And so if you're looking to plan a party, you'd be able to go onto your phone, select the specialty of chef you're looking for, whether it's an executive chef who specializes in savory, a pastry chef who specializes in sweet, bartenders, sommeliers, event professionals. We want you to be able to go onto our app, select who you need, select your menu, pay in the app, rate in the app, all of that. We're billing it the Uber for personal chefs.
I was going to say it's the
That's awesome.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, this is like the Uber. That would be I mean, that's a big deal, a really big deal.
So we've got that application that's being developed as we speak. As I said earlier in our conversation, we're prospecting spaces so that we have a brick and mortar place to continue culinary production, do culinary demonstration, and host events. So those are the next things in the pipeline for Chef.
Y'all might want to figure out the place, Candi and them. They moving out of that place soon, so you.
So actually, I didn't say it because I didn't say it because the site. So the building that we're in, we're actually gonna. So we were doing it before, but we're actually gonna turn this into a membership kitchen. It'll be an incubator where we walk small catering companies and potential restaurateurs through the stages that we went and help them scale their catering companies or food trucks to brick and mortar. So it's a project that we're hoping to work on with the county. We'll have about 50 members here at the building that we're at now that will use the space. Kind of like a commissary kitchen. The only difference is there'll be programming that will help them get from startup to actually brick and mortar space within 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, beautiful. No, I think
out to Candi on a number of different levels.
No, great. I'm glad we made this connection. I see like all of the things that can be done together. I love it. So let me ask you this question as we wrap up, which is, what's the advice you would give to someone out there that, Candi, they may be at the point where they failed on their second restaurant, right? Dorien, they may be at a growth point where they're still trying to figure out the market demand. What's the word of encouragement you would give to those folks watching? What would you say to them?
I would say be willing to learn from someone else. I think that's probably the piece of humble pie that I had to eat, and I'm okay with that. You have to be willing to learn, and honest, that's probably one of the best lessons that I can say. And it is honestly my suggestion for anyone getting into the industry. Go somewhere where someone will be willing to teach you. They'll take you under their wing, or they'll show you the ropes, and hopefully they'll keep you on. And if not, then you can say, hey, I'm happy I learned what I did here. Thank you for the opportunity, and you can go off and do your own thing. But you should be willing to work. A good way to say this, to be willing to be a servant leader, right? In order to be a good leader, you have to learn how to be, to serve first. And especially in this industry, in the hospitality and food service industry, it's all about our guests. Ultimately, that's what it's about. And so if you're willing to go and learn that from somewhere else and go to a place where they're doing what you want to do and they're doing it well. If you can get into a place like that and take your time there and hone your skills there and, soak up all the knowledge that you can, and then go off, you're going to go with so many lessons that the chances of failure will be slimmer than they would if you go in with no experience at all.
Great advice. How about you, Dorien? What's your word for those folks watching?
So once you understand what it is that you want to do, first thing is making sure you have your financials for your own personal being. Make sure your financials are set up properly, because because my next thing is take the leap, do it. There is only but so much planning you're going to be able to do before you hop out in the industry and you start experiencing the successes and the failures. But even to that point of experiencing the successes and the failures and getting that learning, teaching experience, if you don't do it. Thing that I'm grateful for is all the time I've spent in the industry, but the one thing that I'm regretful for is that I didn't leap out earlier than what I did, because I felt like I needed to be anchored to a W-2 role that provided the benefits, the medical, dental, vision, PTO, like all of those things. But the trade-off for the medical, dental, vision, PTO, and salary was, 60, 70 hours a week. And then, I only had X amount of time to really grind and put in to the company. So if you can find a way to take the leap where you can have that 70 hours that you're investing that time in yourselves, the money is going to come. Like, it'll come. You got to do the work to get it. It's going to come. But, take that leap and make that investment in yourself.
Yeah, no, agreed. Dorien, Candi, it has been an extreme pleasure. I'm so excited for what is on the horizon for both of your businesses. Thank you for this amazing opportunity. Let me give a couple of announcements and then I'm going to wrap up. We'll return next week, everyone, featuring two entrepreneurs in the hair industry, Yasmin Young of Diaspora Salon and Lacey Fields of Therapeutic Salon and Spa. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, JH Connects. Email us feedback, jhconnects@jhu.edu. Thank our partners, Johns Hopkins University, Johns Hopkins Health System, Hopkins Local, the Mayor's Office of Small Minority Owned Business, the Warnock Foundation, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, as well as the Bloomberg Philanthropies. Oh, are you a graduate?
I am.
Which cohort?
11.
Cohort 11. Yes. Great. Wonderful. Dorien, you're going to be cohort 14. We're going to get you in, man.
Get in, Dorien.
Get in, Dorien.
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to make it happen. Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye.
Goodbye.